Shaun Murphy, nice to meet you, brother.
Hey, nice to meet you.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
What-
nice to be here.
Yeah, man. I was very excited to get you on. I had a friend. I already followed you on Instagram, but I had a friend that reached out and he forwarded me a post of yours, and it was that you were looking to jump on some podcasts and stuff because you had your special coming out.
I'm doing every podcast. I think this is number 18 of the month.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Damn,
I got
dude.
another 12 to 15 plans, so I'm doing any and every I can.
I think it's amazing. And it's good for people like me who have small podcasts. Like, I appreciate it, man.
No, hey,
Yeah.
happy to do it.
Yeah, I noticed you've been on a few. You've been with. I mean, you play with the big boys anyway because you're a Cellar comic, so you've got good reach and good connections. So I appreciate you coming on to this.
Of course.
Yeah,
of
man.
course.
So how was it? I watched it. I watched the special.
Oh,
I watched
thank you.
the
Appreciate
first
it.
half on Tuesday. The second half I watched last night because it's like you get home from comedy and you're like,
Yeah, you don't want to mainline it.
yeah. Funny, dude.
Thanks, man.
Really
I
funny.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long story thin. It's on Norman's channel now. Check that out. And yeah, my second special feels good. It came out well, and I'm happy with it.
Tell me about the process. Like, how long did it take you to build up that material, and where does it all come from?
Well, it's interesting because the first one, because it's my second, the first one was like, as long as you don't do it too quickly, you feel good about the first one because it's like 10 years worth of jokes and all that. The second one's tougher because I feel like you want to, most people now do 2, 3, 4 years. So it's like the timeline is smaller. But I was lucky because I had maybe like 15 or so to start with, and then just kind of just plugging away at it, chipping away. And nowadays you don't have to do the typical hour. Like mine's 42, which kind of
Which I think's great.
I think that's the move to do if you're not famous.
Yes.
I think if you put on a Chappelle or something and it's an hour, you go, oh, okay. And if you click on someone you don't know and you see it's like 55 and up, you're like, am I gonna give 3 offices to someone I don't even know if they're good?
100%.
It's really tough to get that click in.
Yeah, and people are fucking weird these days. Like, no one has the attention span. If people see an hour and they, like you're saying, they don't know you, they're just going to get freaked out or overwhelmed. A lot of people. So I think it's a great move.
Yeah, and I do like having. There needs to be a line. I think over 40 is a good line because that's like a headliner set. You're on the road. You do 45. So kind of around that feels right to me. And I do have a little bit of an old school mentality. Like, I don't really want to put out like a 12. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or even just like a 25. Not that there's anything wrong with people that do that, but I do feel like we kind of have to hold the line somewhere with like, this is a long set that I'm proud of.
Yes.
No,
well, it also shows that you're a professional.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, a lot of people can do a 10 or a 12 or a 15, but if you're putting 40 together, dude, it shows that you're working.
Yeah, and I always think of those, Tonight Show, Don't Tell. That should almost be like a trailer of like, that's like your hit single. Like, hey, this is, if you like this, check out the album.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And so how many years was it from your first special to this?
Probably about 3-ish.
Wow.
Give or take. Yeah.
That's great, man. I don't know, because people who don't do comedy, they don't really realize it takes a long time to put material together.
It does.
and get it working and believe in it.
And I think probably from the outside perspective, it almost seems silly. You're like, oh, you talk to a microphone for 40 minutes, that takes you years. And you're like, yeah, I kind of.
Yeah.
Because you're tightening every kind of thing, and I think the toughest thing in comedy is to take a good joke and make it to a great joke, because sometimes you have one like, this works, but like it's not like killing, and that's sometimes you get it to kill right away, and that's the dream. But there is a lot of just tinkering and a lot of audiences where how many jokes do we have that it kills the first couple times and then the magic is gone, and you're like, God, what did I do to, it's just a lot of that. It's a lot of tinkering.
Yeah. How was it after your first special, having to almost throw out that material? Because you said that was like 10 years work. That must be hard. Obviously I'm not at that point. I'm a lot younger in the years of comedy than you are. But that must be hard.
It's both tough and freeing in a way. The toughest part is getting that like once you have 2 to 3 bits that kind of kill again, then it's like easy. Then you're almost happy to be like, okay, I got this, like I got the structure that keeps the building up, and now I could kind of start building around it. And I think you got to give yourself some leeway where it's like if you have a big show or if you're bombing, you have the kind of 5 bits maybe you go back into, break glass if necessary, if there's an emergency. So I didn't give myself a like, you can never do this again no matter what. But I was kind of like, 90% of the time I should try and not do these bits anymore. And right now I'm to a point where like, other than one short joke that I like to open with that's like 45 seconds long, like I don't even do any stuff from that special now anymore. I kind of have like 20 that I'm kind of able to, that does well, that I'm able to kind of like work on. And it feels great.
Yeah. So how did you build up this special? Because you've got jokes that are about yourself. You've got personal jokes. You talk about you talk about babysitting twins at the start. You do like political jokes. So you obviously got quite a broad view of the world.
Yeah.
Where does it all come from for you?
You know what's something that blew my mind recently is, so I haven't seen the doc yet, but there's a documentary about Jim Downey, who's a longtime SNL writer.
Okay.
And I was reading an interview about that he did to promote this documentary. And he was talking to how like someone was giving him shit about like SNL. And they were like, oh, how was this week's episode? Let me guess, you did like a political cold open, and then you did like a commercial parody, and then you did like a game show parody. And like he's like, there is a point to that we could maybe be a bit more outside the box. But he's like, but you don't go into a Mexican restaurant and you're like, let me guess, tacos. Oh, do you put on a plate and we sit at a table? Like at a certain point, the format is just kind of what it is. And that's kind of freeing in a way, because good-naturedly, but my fiance was giving me some gruff. She's like, oh, you got a lot of like dick jokes, or there's some stuff about sex, there's some shit stuff. And it's like, yeah, but at a certain point, that's what it is. Like you do enough shows where you're on stage at the Cellar at 1:30, or you're at the Midwest and a Friday late show, and no one knows who you are, and you got to kind of get them. And the thing I've noticed is it's very, you're able to talk a lot about a lot of different subject matter if you're really able to like kind of get their attention and kill with it. So maybe like I do a joke about feminism and it ends in like shitting yourself or something like that. But like it kind of gets everyone to lock in a bit, as opposed to just like droll on about a serious subject and not get laughs, or just be like too kind of silly. And to me, if you could kind of combine the things where it's like, oh, we kind of talked about some like real stuff, but it like got like laughs, and I was able to do those jokes at all, in front of all types of crowds and all over the country, all over the world, and like to get that stuff hitting within different frameworks is like, to me, I feel like that's the job oftentimes.
Yeah. And also like dick jokes are always going to be funny.
I know.
I don't care what anyone says. Like if you're too woke and you don't like a dick joke,
it's like
shut
dick
up.
jokes are funny, fart jokes are
Yeah,
funny. And
gay jokes are funny, fat jokes are funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
They always were funny.
But if you could kind of find ways to say stuff within them, to me, that's what kind of elevates them a little bit.
Yes. Yes. So what is it? Did you tour around the country to like, how did you get your 40 minutes together? Like, did you break it into chunks and?
Yeah, a lot of that, once you kind of get a little more chunks going, it's nice because then you could divide it. Like if I'm doing 15 minutes in the city, I could be like, here's 3 different sets. And maybe like the opener's the same, maybe the closer's the same, but it's generally different sets. And it's like, this week I'm gonna do set A, this week I'm gonna do set B. And the same thing if I'm on the road, I'm opening for someone, I'm doing 2025, I could kind of be like, I have 2 different sets. And then, this week I'll do this one, the next week I'll do, and you just kind of pound them into submission.
Yeah.
And I'm not always the best at this. The goal is, unless I have like, a bigger show, or even just like the Cellar, which I try and be like locked in at because it's so like prestigious. But like most of the time I'm on stage, I want to do like at least 1% new. It doesn't have to be a full new joke. It could just be a different order. It could be a trying a new tag. It could be ending on something different, just so I get a little bit more intel every time. So when I walk home, I go, okay, I learned something, you know?
Yeah, you're so right. When you just do the same thing like multiple times, you get the same result. You're not growing.
Yeah, and there's sometimes you see those comics, you know those comics where you see a joke and it's like a 5 out of 10. And you go like, that could be something. Like, I like that. That could be something. But then a year later, you hear them tell the same joke the same way. And you go, oh, you think that's done? You know what I'm saying? Like, you had something, but you can't just rest on, that it's good enough.
Yeah. How do you know when it's at a point where it's like, this is perfection? I can't do anything else to this. Or do you think that there never really is that point?
Yeah, it's tough. You kind of go back and forth because there are ones where if you push yourself, you go like, wow, I got an extra laugh there. I thought that was done, but I kind of found an extra laugh there. I think it's I'd rather go overboard than underboard, because you could take a joke and for a couple of weeks you're like throwing all different things at it and you're like, God, I fucked up this joke. But then that original thing still exists.
Yes.
You just go back to it.
Yes.
So it's not the end of the world if, you're kind of trying jokes different ways and it breaks. You're like, well, I still have the original. I know what the original sounds like. I have it written down or whatever, So I think, yeah, that's the goal, is to just constantly be flipping it and doing shit with it.
Yeah, amazing. So tell me about your journey, mate. Like, how did you're obviously American. What part of America did you?
I'm from Buffalo, so it's in the state, but it's it's a nice 6-hour drive from here.
So it is in New York, Buffalo?
It is, yeah.
Interesting.
The other end of the state.
All right. And so when did you move to New York?
About 10 years ago. So I've been doing it roughly 20 years, kind of 10 mostly in Buffalo and then 10 now in the city.
What's the scene like down there or up there, wherever it?
It's it's way, obviously everywhere is way smaller than New York, but you got like a club, you got a couple side shows. When I started, it was kind of great because stand-up is so popular now, so popular. When I started doing stand-up in Buffalo, there was like 8 comics.
Wow.
There was one show a week. There was an open mic once a week. There was a club for a little bit, but in my first year, it went out of business. So my first 5 years, there was like one open mic once a week, and there was like anywhere between 7 and 15 comics that would be doing it regularly. And if you went to the open mic to hang with your friends, they'd ask you to do it. They'd be like, can you please do a spot? Not, only 4 people showed up tonight. Now you go to a mic anywhere in America and there's a wait list of 50 people, but like that was just not that way.
Yeah.
Even just 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So it kind of, in a good way, it kind of forced me, because I needed a little bit. I was someone who needed a little bit of a push. It took me a while to get over the stage fright and to be like, do I like doing this? What am I going to do with my life? So that kind of helped. I think it would have been tougher if I kind of started in this atmosphere where, I hear from women, they go on like dating apps and everyone has a microphone in their hands on stage. It's like, that's how many comedians there are now.
Wow. Yeah. I'm not surprised, especially in this city.
Yeah.
There's just an amazing amount. So that must be wild, coming up in a time where it wasn't popular.
There was no podcast. Like people, like there was no like comedy nerd stuff going on. You just kind of did, you met someone who was like, oh, you watch Comedy Central Presents? You know who, Patrice O'Neill is? That's crazy. Like it was like kind of a subculture a little bit,
So what was the thing that got you up on stage in the first place?
Me and a buddy just watched Comedy Central all the time, and they had to stand up on 24/7. And it was just such a great, you were thrown people that were so outside of your orbit. Nowadays, like, the algorithm is like, what do you like? And now, back then it was like, here's stand-up, watch all these stand-ups, find out what you like, and it's great because you took things from different acts. There were even acts that I'm like, I didn't really like that 30, but man, that one joke is awesome, and you got to kind of experience a lot of stuff, and it was just on all the time. And I was like, that seems fun. And me and a buddy took a class and did it. And, eventually he was like, I'm going to get a real job. And I was like, that's probably smart. I just kind of kept doing it.
And you said you mentioned stage fright before. Did you have a fair bit when you were getting
Yeah,
going?
I was telling a friend the other day, like I was that person who was kind of like going to the open mic and was like, man, wouldn't it be great if it burned down and I didn't have to go on stage? Like I didn't really have. I liked writing the joke, but I didn't really have the drive to like tell the joke.
Interesting.
In fact, my first couple years, at least the first year, maybe even longer, I would go on stage and just read my jokes off of note cards. And I kind of convinced myself, I'm like, maybe I'll be the note card guy. You know what I'm saying? You know when you have a fault and you just convince yourself, you're like, no, this will be my thing, actually. Yeah. Maybe being bad at performance is just my thing. And
Well, who's the guy on Kill Tony, the ranger that goes up with his?
Oh, I don't know this guy.
Yeah, there's a guy on Kill Tony. He's a redhead. It's what we call rangers in Australia, and he goes up with his cards, and he just he's the note card guy.
He's a note card guy.
Yeah, William Bartholomew or someone, I think his name. Anyway, that's funny. That's
funny. That's funny because I wonder how, like, if that. I assume he's like a younger guy. I wonder if he's still doing comedy in 10 years, if he looks back and be like, remember when I was doing the note card? Like, but it's a thing, first couple years is just like, you're just throwing shit at the wall. You're doing it is the goal.
Yes.
It's like, hey, you just got to get up there. You got to do it. You got to find out who you are, find out if you like it.
Yeah.
So like just getting up there, the fact that I would do that and I just eventually realizing like, oh, some of these was like getting laughs, just reading it off the note card. So like if I could kind of actually perform these, I might be onto something.
Yeah. So it's just a slow, just grind and hacking away at yourself, just going, come on, man, just do it.
Which is nice because eventually I think I knew I think it's easier to get to a base level performance than it is to get to a base level writing. Like if you don't have the writing gene, that's going to fuck you up way more than if you don't have the performing gene.
I completely agree.
Because at a certain point, I mean, we've seen comics where you're just like, oh, you're still doing that joke, even if it kills. At a certain point, there is a little bit of like we're just talking about like a comic that doesn't make the joke better or a comic that doesn't kind of evolve at all. You should be a little bit excited of like, I got a new chunk. This is like that's more even the job than the performance. Most people can kind of get up there and do at least an okay job at performance, but the writing is, I feel like, where it shines or doesn't.
No, I completely agree. I really do. And the guys that I've seen improve dramatically over the time that I've been in New York are guys that are constantly see them pen and paper, just like constantly honing on their writing skills.
Right.
Making every little word count, trying little tags all the time. Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's what'll take you to the next level. You see so many of these people that they're like super likable or they're super hot. And I want to be like, God, if you put a little more in there, like you could be fucking huge, because like some people just like, they're getting by.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it's a learned skill or do you think it's something that you just, you have?
I think it could be a bit of both. I mean, I think anyone can, to a certain extent, if I played basketball every day, I'd get better at basketball. Now, would I make the NBA? I don't think so. But like there is a thing of like, I don't think you have to be the world's best writer, but I do think if you do kind of hone that skill, you could be a 10 out of 10 performer and a 7 out of 10 writer, and that will get you to the moon.
Yeah. I think it's like, it really is. It's just, in this, it's like every little bit counts. The problem with comedy though is like we're also time poor because a lot of us work during the day and then we just perform and we're out all night and it's just like squeezing in little. It's just like you got little chunks of hours where you can actually work on it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the hardest thing that I've found anyway. But
I think sometimes that's the key too. Like I remember when I first went to the city, came to the city, like you do some mics and you'd be like, ooh, I think this is actually making me worse. Where I'm trying to make like, no, some offense to comedians, but like a lot of us are just like fucking drunk losers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and you're like, that's not the job. The job isn't to kill for like a cynical dork in the back of a open mic. The job is to make like regular human beings laugh.
Yeah.
So like you also get to a point where it took me a while to be like, all right, these mics I like, these shows are good to hang out at, and then I'll take that other time to write. I think a mistake. You want to get on stage as much as you can, maybe the first 4 years, but once you get past that, I think there is a thing of like, what's making me better and what's making me worse? Because like sometimes being out all night with comics is very helpful. You need to do that, but like writing is also very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I'm at the point where I'm just absolutely saying yes to everything. But I tell you what, there's a lot of shows that I do that I'm like, that was fucking pointless.
Yeah, that's a good thing of like growing up is you get to, me and my buddy, my one friend had a little bit of a, not like a meltdown, but he was just kind of like, he works the road a lot and he had a bit of a, tough time of like, this show is so tough and what am I doing? The money on this. And I was like, just take like, every year, take your worst weekend and like cut it out. You know what I'm saying? Or in your case, take your worst show that you did last year and be like, you know what? I'm at a point I don't have to do that show anymore. And it's just like a little bit of growth. You'll still have bad shows that you do, but it's just a little bit of like, I've given that show 3 opportunities. It hasn't done anything for me. I didn't like the other comics on the show. I didn't think the audience was good. And it's there if you need it. You could always, you could probably still get on it if need be. But I think it's like, hey, that made me sad, and I need some joy in this business. It didn't make me better. It ruined my night. And I could, cut a little bit of that out. I think you get to a point where like saying yes to everything is great, and then you get a little older and like maybe I'll say yes to 92% of things. And that 8% could just be me writing or even just having a good day.
Yeah. Living life outside of comedy as well.
Which oftentimes ends up with good jokes.
100%. I took a week off and went to Mexico a couple of months ago. It's a new 5-minute bit.
Yeah.
Just from that. And I didn't have to sit there and think about it. It happened. It was an experience and it turned straight into a bit, multiple bits. And it was like, you don't get that when you're just doing this all the time. You need to sort of step away a little bit.
That's true. It's the balance.
So then you did 10 years in Buffalo and then you moved to New York. What was the decision? Was it for comedy?
It was for comedy.
Yeah, you're like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm in it now.
It was just kind of finding I also wanted to be a little practical. I think that's a thing comics sometimes do. They're like, I'm here, and they get kind of like burnt out because it's like it doesn't happen immediately, and you're like, it's a marathon. You got to be in it. So I made sure I had a good nest egg. Working a day job, good money. I was moving in with friends, so I knew it wouldn't be like a huge disaster of like. You want comedy's so it's such a gamble that you want some things in your life that are stable. It could be a relationship, it could be your living situation, it could be a day job, it could be money in your bank account. If all 5 things are going haywire, I just feel like you're untethered. You're constant. How could you worry about the new bit when you're like, I gotta find out where I'm living, and then I got $8 in the bank, and you just need. You could worry about some of those things because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
But just have like, even if you just have like a partner, you could go home to and complain to, like just a couple things that ground you as a human being that you don't got to worry about. And I think so many comics, they come here when they're 25, they're single, they're broke. They're living with a half naked guy in Chinatown or something like that, and they're just like, man, why am I sad? It's like because everything in your life sucks.
Yeah,
and like you just need give yourself some grace here, man. Have yourself 1 or 2 things going on, like live in your hometown for another 3 years and get 20 grand in the bank, and then come here.
Yeah,
you just do some things where you could not. Be an animal.
I completely agree. Well, I couldn't work for the first year I was here but luckily I had a nest egg. I didn't have to worry about that. And I also got married. So that helped big time. But if I had to come here without the support of my wife and without cash, dude.
And a lot of people do that.
I would have gone home after 6 months.
Yeah,
100%.
which is what a lot of people do. And it goes like, hey man, I know you're excited to get here, but there's nothing wrong. New York's not going anywhere. And if you love comedy, that's not going anywhere. So there's no real difference between moving here when you're 25 and when you're 29. In fact, 29 is hopefully going to be way better at comedy.
Yeah.
So you show up and people are like, who's this guy? As opposed to like, that's just another guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So then what was your process going through the rigmarole of New York? You've been here for a decade. You've passed at the Cellar, which is, I mean, a lot of my audience know about the Cellar, but if you don't, that is probably the #1 club in the world.
Yeah.
Arguably.
So. Yeah.
Any comic who performs wants to be passed there eventually. So that must have been a moment in itself.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point?
Well, I think it's just a lot of kind of building blocks. Like I remember when I was living in Buffalo, I was like, it was kind of a better time in a lot of ways where you could open up for a lot of comics. Not everyone was like bringing their own team. So I was like opening up I've opened up for just so many people, from, before they were big, like a Hinchcliffe, a Schultz, a Schaub, and then people I kind of ended up working with, like Normand and Dan Soder. But yeah, so it was kind of a thing of like, do that, you do longer sets, you get good, you meet people, and then you get some contacts. I remember the first couple of years before I moved to New York City, I was like, let me open for any New York guy. Any New York guy you have on the roster, I'll open for. So then you move to the city and you kind of know people. Not that they're all going to do favors for you or anything like that, but at least you kind of know people. And then you still, I think another big thing was having, now I'm lucky because Buffalo is pretty close to New York, but having those road connections where you could still have some things where you leave the city and you perform for non-city audiences, where you're able to do like, open up for some comics on the road. You're able to, go back to Buffalo, do some shows there. Kind of breaks things up, makes sure, it's easy to get into a rut here.
Yes.
So then you kind of have that, and that's going well. And then slowly, I was able to start a show in New York Comedy Club, like relatively, not early on, but before they kind of, as they expanded, that helped. I'm able to book comics on that. You get to know people. So that, there's all these little milestones, and then eventually like knowing a bunch of these comics. I think Normand wrecked me for the Cellar, and then I think a couple people kind of co-signed on that, like Soder, Ian Lara, and then you get the audition, you do well, and then you do well your first couple months, and you kind of stick around. And so it's just all about those little, those little things kind of build. I think some people, they kind of want to go to the right, skip steps, and it's just, you got to kind of slowly kind of work your way up there.
Yes. Yeah. I heard that the Cellar there's a lot of pressure when you first start at the Cellar. Like the comics feel a lot of pressure there to perform well, which I can imagine. I mean,
because I think the thing too is like the real audition is the first like month, because not that anyone can do well, but you're going, and it's the best club in the world. The audiences are juiced, and you're doing your best 5 minutes you've ever written. So like you're gonna do well probably. Yeah. So then, you hopefully you get past, and then they give you 15, but they're giving you every spot in the world. You're going on at 6:30 after Colin Quinn. You're going on at 1 a.m. after, Caitlin Palufo. You're going on at the beginning of the show, the end of the show. You're going after great comics, maybe some comics that are struggling, or what have you. So they're big room, small room. They're throwing you everything at you. And you could kind of tell the people that don't got it, and they kind of end up getting less spots where it's like, well, now you're doing longer sets, and you're going after, the best comics in the city, in the world. And you got to kind of be able to sink or swim. And, so that's the real thing of you got to, be ready for that.
And you said before, like it's a marathon and not a sprint. Yeah. And I mean, I completely agree with that, but it is hard sometimes, because in life you always want to get that thing. You always want that thing, right? Yeah. If I want to go eat lunch, I go buy it. Right. So it's a hard thing to process in your mind that this journey is actually a very slow and methodical journey.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of aspects of your life, it's not like that. You try and you try and grab it.
And I think a thing to always remember is the thing is never necessarily the thing. Like the Cellar has changed my life, for example, in a lot of good ways. It's a great club, love everyone there. But there are like, things where you go like, oh, I didn't get many spots this weekend. And then like sometimes you get in your head and then you look at the website and you're like, oh yeah, Ray Romano is in town. I'd book him over me too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you'll be like, who do I think I am? And it's just, it's just, there's always new comics and there's always shuffling things. And, so like the every little bit helps, but it's not going to erase, all your problems either.
I hear you. Yeah. Now, how much road gigs have you done in your life?
A lot.
And
a lot.
What is I've never done anything on the road.
Okay.
So what is the process of that, and what is the pros and cons of doing road as opposed to staying in the city and just trying to concentrate on one aspect?
I mean, I think there's a lot of pros. I think the first one, and it's why bigger to medium comics do it, is it's like that's where you make a lot of your money. Mm-hmm. It's everything from just merch to just you're gonna, especially if you're headlining a show, but even if you're opening, you're just gonna make more money on a Friday, Saturday than you are if you stay in the city.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect to it, and there is the funness of seeing how your jokes play to different audiences. New York's, it's a great comedy club. Even some people, they kind of almost like shit on tourists, and you're like, well, that's diversity though. That's kind of what we want.
Yeah.
I don't want to just perform for all New Yorkers.
No.
I want people from Kansas City and people from Estonia and people. I want that's part of the
and performing at clubs like I'm using Broadway as a reference because that's where I perform a lot, which is a lot of people from it's all tourists, and the Cellar, which is a lot of tourists. Yeah. Does those sorts of clubs get you more prepared for the road because you are performing in front of a diverse audience?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, it's tough because like obviously on the road, depending where you are, it's going to be diverse, but it's diverse overall, but more each show is going to be a little bit more homogenized. Like you're going to get more diversity at Broadway than you are at like the Kansas City Improv or something like that. But it's it's good to see where all your jokes land with different audiences, and it's just so there's a funness and there's a money aspect to it, and to me there's a little bit of that's the job where unless you're kind of, I don't know, even if you're rich, you tour like that. That's just kind of what you do.
Yeah.
Musicians, comedians, we just kind of go places and sell our wares.
I can't wait to do it.
It's fun.
Yeah. I really can't wait. I can't wait to see the country as well. Like to be able to go all around.
That's another great. Yeah,
all around America.
It's a nice pro of it.
Yeah. Getting stuck in your car for 10 hours at a time wouldn't be fun though. But
That's true. I think flight is the way to go, and a nice road trip can be fun, but a long, because especially when I first started, growing up in Buffalo, there'd be a lot of gigs where it'd be like, that's just 6 hours. You drive wherever. I drive to Montreal, which is probably like 6+ hours. You do a show, and then you do a weekend, and then you'd have to drive 6 hours back. And if it was winter, it could, who knows what could go wrong. And so I'm glad I fly more these days, because I'd rather be delayed at an airport than driving through the snow for 7 hours is brutal.
Yeah. Now in your special, you make some some personal jokes, like you make a joke about yourself balding, for example. A lot of guys, which I think is amazing. If the guys that can make fun of themselves is that, I feel like they're some of the most interesting comics to watch. It's also a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I have a big thing with that. I have a thing, and this isn't universal, but this is kind of like a thing I put in my brain. If I'm watching a comedian and I can't imagine them making fun of themselves, I go, "This is a bad comedian."
Interesting.
Now, that's just my personal taste, but there's a lot of comedians you see out there. I mean, comedy's in such a bad way in 1,000 different ways, but like the idea that we're cool makes me like want to vomit. We're clowns. We're clowns, and we should be, to a certain extent, falling down the stairs, getting hit with a pie. And like the idea of people thinking we're like, I'm not saying you can't be smart or you have to be like a doofus, but this idea that we shouldn't be the smartest person necessarily in the room. We definitely shouldn't be the coolest person in the room. And I just feel like I can't do a set without a joke in the first 5 minutes, letting people know like I'm gonna punch myself in the dick up here a little bit, because like that's kind of the job. And I also think it just psychologically makes the rest of the set better, because if you go too hard, I mean, just say on anyone. Say you have a joke. So I'm skinny. Say you have a joke against fat people. If I make fun of myself for being too skinny and then I have a fat joke, there's at least a psychological people going like, well, he was so hard on himself. This must be, he's joking. You know what I'm saying? Which I know is obvious because it's stand-up, but I do think there's a thing where people just kind of want to know, especially in this day and age, especially with a million comics, they want to know that you're like a good guy, you know?
Yeah.
They don't want to be up there and be like, this person hates me. You know, it's I think a lot of, you know, like comics doing all these trans jokes. I think a lot of the trans community is like, we can take a joke, but I legitimately think you don't like me.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of turns people off, you know? So like, at least if you're able to do stuff up front where you making fun of yourself, it disarms a lot of the other stuff, because people are going, okay, this guy, you know, he's just as hard as himself as he is at you know, hating, you know, whatever.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So there's a part of that that's just psychological, but like, I just hate this thing of like, make fun of yourself because it's saying you're not, you know, the shit. We shouldn't think we're the shit up there, you know?
Have you always been like that, or has that been something that you've developed over time?
I think I've always been like that. I think my biggest influence early on, you know, there's a bunch, everyone has a bunch, but one of my biggest influences wasn't traditional stand-up, it was Conan. I watched Conan all the time, and so much of his stuff is self-deprecating. And I just think it like brings the audience in so much. And it's so like, you know, some people might say it's a crutch or it's easy, but I just think it's such to me, that's the way to do comedy. Yeah. You know?
Also, we're all secretly self-deprecating.
Yeah.
We all look in the mirror and view insecurities and go, fuck.
Yeah.
Or think about things that we did, actions that we did one day, and we're just like, I'm a dickhead.
Yeah.
We're all self-deprecating. So there's something about you acknowledging something about yourself that gives everyone else permission.
Yeah. Yeah.
To go, this is okay. It's okay that I feel like this. I don't know. It's something about it does bring the room together.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's really cool. No, it's a strange journey, this, man. It really is. It's a bizarre thing. I've said this a few times on this pod, but I feel like this whole comedy thing is really like an unraveling of yourself in many senses. Like you were saying, it took you a while to like find yourself on stage. I think it is. For me, it's been like trying to like break the chains of like a rigidity that I had around myself and giving myself permission to like be silly and be an idiot, almost go back to like a childlike state where I'm making fun of things and free mentally of like any sort of blockages that I've had.
That's true. And there is a freedom, like, you know, it's nice to be in a headspace where if you driving and you get a flat tire and you could almost try and think what's funny there instead of just be mad that you're in a bad situation. Yeah. Because a lot of times, again, especially if you're kind of had that self-deprecation gene, something goes wrong and you could almost be like, oh, you know, this guy at the airport called me ugly. Isn't that, maybe there's something funny there. Yeah. As opposed to be like just wallowing in the misery of it. You know?
Yeah, so right. Yeah. Yeah, in life, there's always a bit there, isn't there?
Yeah.
It is. I've never thought about it like that, but that is a really great way to view.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a good mindset.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. I tell you, one joke of yours that I really liked was the COVID joke, the potato chip.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's funny. You know how you think of jokes with certain words attached? So someone will bring up a joke and you're like, what joke is that? And you're like, oh, yeah.
It was, can I sort of...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, please.
He has a joke where it's like a potato chip fell on my...
Yeah.
So you say it. You don't have to say the joke, but it's like a potato chip fell on my dick,
Yeah.
and then 2 weeks later, COVID started.
Yeah.
It was so funny, man.
Thank you.
I laugh so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, when you're, I want to get a bit more like technical now, just because as a younger comic, I like to ask sort of more experienced guys their process. Like, what is your writing process?
It's like anyone. I could write more. What I do is I jot down things in my phone, like that I think are funny.
Yeah.
And then it's nice because then when I sit down to write, it's not a blank page. I have things that like throughout the week, throughout the month, there's like little tidbits of things. And then of course you'll look at some and you'll be like, what did cum butt mean?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't think that's anything. But those things you'll look at, you're like, oh, this is good. This is something. And then you could kind of, so it gives you a nice thing to kind of work off of. Because I think so many times people are intimidated because they're staring at a blank page and they're like, microphones. Is there something with microphones? And you're like, well, that's not how you like think of things throughout the day. And then you get little ideas and you're able to be like, piece them together. And you know what I find really big is, so I have a Word document on my laptop, and like anyone, I could be more organized, but if you have all your jokes in a place, it's so nice, because say you have a joke about microphones and then you go like, didn't I have something else about microphone? You word search microphone and you're like, oh, this could actually, or you just word search like, inadequate, and you're like, oh, I have this other chunk. Maybe that's not a joke. Maybe it's a line in this chunk, and you're able to kind of like combine stuff in that way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you'll have stuff about like, you'll have a kind of a funny line about porn, or say, and it's like 10 seconds long, and you're like, well, where does that go? Is that really anything? And you're like, oh, wait, I actually have a chunk about OnlyFans. And then this could be a chunk about, adult entertainment, and you know what I'm saying? And you could like put that all together. So I find that very helpful too. And that's, but yeah, it's just a lot of looking at notes and being like, does this belong here? Does this belong here? A lot of trying it and being like, putting chunks together I like, because sometimes you'll have jokes, but you're like, what is this? Oh, this is about how men have gotten too dumb. And then you kind of, I got something else that could kind of work. I have something else with like men's fashion, and that could kind of work. And you could kind of put a nice, like, oh, that's the man chunk now, and you could kind of put it together and it all kind of flows into each other. Which is a thing I've noticed. I've told this to a friend. It sounds small, but sometimes you could really tell an amateur comic when there's no flow to it, when they have like no segues. Because sometimes you'll see a bad comic and they'll like tell a joke about Uber, right? And then whether it works or not, the Uber joke is done, and they'll go, so anyway, yeah, I had coffee this morning, and you're like, what? How we get to? There's no kind of, and it's not that hard to do that. You could just be like, before I got in the Uber, I got coffee. Now there's just kind of like a simple professionalism that kind of comes across as like, I know what I'm doing up here.
It makes the audience feel like you've thought it out as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that kills me when you see the kind of, and you're all doing new stuff and you get a pass for that. But the comics who are just like, hey man, did you prepare at all for this set? Like, again, one thing, if you're doing new and you're lost a little bit, that happens to everyone. But those comics that kind of continuously, it's like, people paid money for this, and you're just kind of like, and what else? You know what joke I wanted to do, and you're like, just look at your notes for 5 minutes before you come on stage.
Yeah.
Act like you give a shit.
Yeah. Another joke I was just thinking of that I liked was you said like how women act crazy, or people think that women act crazy, but you basically say, I don't think they're nearly as crazy as men, because when men go crazy, they kill all the Jews.
Yeah.
Great fucking joke.
Thanks,
dude.
man. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Great joke, bro.
I like to save. I usually like to save my like the clips until after the special comes out, which is very old school, but that's kind of how I like doing it.
Yeah.
That joke I did at Sesh, and they had put it up on. This was a couple years ago. They put it up on their TikTok and Instagram, and it went so viral. I think because it's a short joke that has everything.
Yes.
Like it has it has feminism, men. It's a little controversial. It is Jewish people, Holocaust. Like it has everything in it. So like it's a Rorschach test. You could see whatever you want to see in it, and it went so like I think it was the last time I checked, it was like 10 million people, and it was like terrifying because you go like, oh, this is why I think being famous would be awful. Because just seeing the comments and like, you assume 80% of the people got what I was saying because it's pretty obvious. But the amount of people that was just like from every angle who was just like, oh, this is, like, no, women are rape crazy. Or don't you remember Queen Elizabeth IV? And you'd be like, no, because she wasn't as bad as Hitler, or Mussolini, or Bin Laden, or etc. And then like, so people just making like terrible, weird arguments to support their weird agenda, or like other people being like, he's anti-Semitic, and then other people being like, no, he's Jewish, and it's like my name's Murphy. It's in the like. There's just so many. There was so many just like weird things people were like coming after you from, and you're just like I say in the joke, the Holocaust is the worst thing to ever happen. How is that? Like it's just this like no nuance, and people just like going after, and you're just like, and obviously that wasn't most of it, but like there was like you see how people could get like how the internet is scary.
It's crazy. I do post podcast clips. I do some face to camera stuff, and some of the face to camera stuff that's gone really well. The comments, can be awful.
I have a thing.
Awful.
And I've said this before, but I very much believe. And listen, I don't want to take away negativity. I'm a fan of negativity.
Yeah.
Most of comedy is based on that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're posting a thing directly to a negative thing directly to someone, I think you're mentally ill. Because the only way that's okay in society is because it's so easy. But before the internet, before the internet was a big thing, if you had seen Titanic, and then you went home and you were writing a letter to Leonardo DiCaprio telling him he could kiss your ass, people in the 90s would be like, do you need like help?
Yeah.
Like it would be considered like you have a problem.
Yes.
And the only difference between that and someone commenting on your video, go kill yourself, is it's easier. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And again, I'm not trying to take away negativity. I think there should be like if I release my special and someone doesn't like it, you can't not like it. And you could start like a Reddit thread, a Twitter thread. You could talk about not liking it publicly. But there's something about saying a thing to a creator that they know they'll see that feels so like mentally unbalanced.
Completely agree.
Like if you're watching a sports game, right? You're watching sports and you go, I'm trying to make it soccer because I know you're Australian, and I'm trying to think of a soccer person. Lionel Messi is a soccer person.
Okay, there we go.
If you go, Lionel Messi stunk today on Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. That's fine. And I think Lionel Messi would be like, I don't like seeing that, but I understand. But if you go, at Lionel Messi sucks today. To me, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
That's a difference between stating my opinion, getting something off my chest, and being like, I want this guy to hurt the way that I'm hurting.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, I don't know. I feel like you should get 3 negative ats to someone a year.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, and it's not even the sense of like, I'm trying to protect comics and we need a safe space. It's more like, that's bad for you.
Yes.
It's bad for you, the poster, to do that.
Also,
It's
when you read these things, you just imagine these people being such cowards.
Yeah.
Like that they wrote, oh, you're a bad person, blah blah blah, but then I just always have the sense like you would never say this to me in real life. If I
Yeah.
walked down the street and
I
you saw me,
know.
you would not say shit.
And there's just something too to like I'm to a point now like I think because I've framed it that way that like 90% of them don't even bother me anymore. It's just kind of like funny because I go like none of my friends, none of my loved ones, I mean, maybe who knows, some of them maybe have a secret history, but I don't think any of the people I care about are doing stuff like that. They're seeing someone sing and they're going, nice voice, fucking loser. You know, like, and I go like, no one I interact with is acting that way.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that person, they're real, but they're not like serious or there's something wrong with them. So I'm able to kind of laugh about it now.
Yeah.
And I'm able to even send like jokey responses back of like, okay, man, I'll try to get you next time. Have a good day. And so many of these people, they'll just be like, yeah, oh, sorry, man, I just didn't think it was, you know, like you're able to just, if you're able to be normal back to them again, they're able to kind of see like,
yeah,
I guess that was kind of, you know.
Yeah. I found the whole thing really strange. It took me I didn't really do anything on social media before I came to the city, and so it took me a little while to get used to it. Now, when I read negative comments, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I find it funny. If anything, I'm like, yes, make more negative comments because it just
helps the
algorithm, which is kind of fucking crazy, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
How have you seen, for doing this comedy for 2 decades? There wouldn't have been social media when you started,
Right.
I guess there might have been MySpace or something, but
There was MySpace. Yeah.
the old MySpace days.
Oh yeah.
But you must have you've seen a whole spectrum of change in those 2 decades.
That's very true.
Do you think it's for the better or worse?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's always tough to know too because you don't want to be the old man yelling at clouds to be like it's all. I tend to go it's worse for 2 reasons. One is that it's unarguable that it's tougher to be a middle-class comedian now. It's tougher to be middle-class anything these days, but it's tougher to be a middle-class comedian where we were kind of paid more, we were, you know, respected more. It wasn't all about like the followers. It was easier to be a working professional.
Yeah.
And that's harder now, and that, you know, you can't argue with me that is worse.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll chime in here. I know a comic that has been a pro in Australia for 20 years. He said 20 years ago he was getting paid like $75 to $100 for a spot. Now when he does a spot, $75 to $100.
100%. Yep. Same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's that, and then there's 2 is, so the good is, and I think people kind of give too much of a positive to this, but the good is that we're our own bosses now. We can, you know, there's not as many gatekeepers. We control our own. If you're killing it, then you could go on tour and you could, you know, that's great. But I would argue the bad thing is we're our own bosses now. And we used to only care about comedy. But now, you know, you have to have a podcast, you have to do front-facing videos, you know, and you know, if you're really good at stand-up and there's someone who almost like definitively is worse than you, but they have 100,000 more followers, they're going to get the comedy gigs.
I know.
And it is a thing of like, I think that's bad.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so there are positives that have come with it, but you know, it used to be more like, you know, not that the business or the gatekeepers were right all the time, because they definitely weren't. They had their own problems, but there was a sense of like, you walk into a room and this person is murdering at stand-up comedy. We're going to try and get this person a bigger platform because they're good at the job.
Yeah.
And they're only focused on the job, you know? And now that's not really the case anymore. It's the Wild West, and I think it's bad for comedy, and it's bad for a lot of things, you know?
Yeah.
It reminds me, see if I could get it right, that old Mitch Hedberg joke where it's kind of like, you know, he does stand-up and people want him to act too. And he's like, but I do this. He's like, that would be like if you know, if you're really good at cooking and they're like, hey man, do you want to farm? It's like, well, no, I kind of, and that's the thing now we have to do so much other shit. And I talk about this all the time, but the thing that bums me out so much when I first moved to this city, and I'm sure there's a bit of a nostalgia, rose-colored glasses, but like every comedian cared about comedy. You'd be like, oh, who has a great new joke? You know who murdered last night? Has a hot new show. I want to start a hot new show. I got a new 5 that's cooking. Nowadays, you barely even hear comedians talk about comedy. It's like, hey man, when's the best time to post reels? Should I do more front-facing videos? Podcast clips? How many times do I post? What's your best platform for? It's like, it's all the business.
Yeah.
And like no one's taught, and that's the thing that really bothers me when you see comedians devalue comedy. We used to let other people do that, but now it's like, like I said, you're just around comics and we're barely talking about comedy, and that's to me why I can't get over that it has to be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks, man, to be honest. It sucks that you have to do the social media thing. It kind of, in its own way, makes you feel like a slave to a different system.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was talking on the same thing. I was talking to a couple comics a couple nights ago, and we were talking about how there's not as many bar shows as there used to be when we first moved to the city. And we were saying, like, in their defense, it doesn't make any sense. Do a front-facing video. 10,000 people might see it. 100,000 people might see it. What are you going to go to? You're going to slave away at a bar show that's going to start with 12 people, and you're going to have to cancel some. And it literally, there's no incentive to be good at stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
There's no incentive. It does nothing for you. It's a nice bonus if you're good, but like it's way better to have followers, to be good at social media, to know the right people,
Even the podcast, mate, like this, each podcast takes a lot of time, costs money. I got to pay to get edited, and I pay to get clips cut and with all the nice B-roll and stuff. The views get hardly anything compared to doing this, which takes 1 minute. But this brings me so much more joy, and I feel like is actually a benefit to the world. Sitting down with someone and having a conversation, as opposed to having a stupid fucking opinion about nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the whole thing is backwards what we value now.
Yeah.
And what we're kind of almost forced to value.
Yeah. And it's tough because there also is a thing like we all have to play the game a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also want more people to hold the line.
Yeah.
So and you kind of just hope at some point there's the bubble's gonna kind of burst and people are gonna realize. But it's tough. The dopamine of I'm a big go to the movies guy. I can't tell you the last time I was at a movie and I didn't see someone take out their phone and scroll social media during a movie that they paid money to see. And it's like, so that's the thing of just trying to limit that stuff.
Yeah.
But we need it.
Yeah.
That, if you have 200,000 followers, you could tour.
Yeah.
And if if a video goes viral, that helps you get more followers. And but I can't tell you the amount of clubs I've been to that I've done well at, that have, maybe been like half full, that are basically been like, we like you, but you're not popular enough you don't have 50,000 followers, so we can't have you back.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh damn, you know me too. And you like me. And you know that I do a good job, but they're like, the 50,000 person, they might sell, and that's the whole joke of all this thing of like, you could have 500,000 followers, but how many followers do you have in Columbus who know you from stand-up that are going to come out to see you on that weekend? It might be 10 more people than me. So if these clubs, they're selling 10 more tickets, but this hypothetical influencer is bad, they're not going to come back to the club.
Yeah.
Plus,
mate, I've seen a lot of people with large following and on shows, and
because
it's underwhelming.
Because it almost makes sense, because that's where they're spending their time.
Yeah.
They're not like, man, I got to work on that sweater chunk. I'm almost there with this.
They
don't give a fuck about that. They're making a video like, oh, sweater's kind of weird. Yeah. Sometimes, and then, it doesn't even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's very frustrating. especially because I don't know how I'm 36. I don't know if you're
40.
Yeah, so we're very similar in age. We've come up in the world. We've grown up in the world where we didn't have it. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't even have a computer in my house till I was in high school.
I think I was the same. Yeah.
So this whole, it's just weird, man. It's just
know.
weird. And then where's it going to be in 20 years' time?
I know.
What is comedy going to be
I
then?
do kind of wonder / hope if there's if there's a like a course correction, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hope. That might be me being again, rose-colored glasses, but like you do get the sense that a lot of people, even younger people, are like, this is bad for me. And they kind of almost romanticize the era we grew up in.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we could just, people didn't know where we were all the time. We weren't, slaves to our phones. We would go out and be lost and have fun and, all that stuff. So I do wonder how much, even if it just clings back just a little bit, could be very helpful.
I think everything does correct itself just naturally in life. Like there has to be the rubber band has to stretch to a certain point until it can release.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It doesn't seem like the need to get the followers on the Instagram and the TikToks is going to go away anytime soon, though.
I think that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah, but I hope that in the future that people get sick of the 5, 10, 20-second takes.
Yeah.
Because I think that sort of stuff is...
And I think we got to do a good job of like playing the game, but not getting lost in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are a bunch of comics out there that have medium followings, but like they have diehards, they make their money, and they do what they want to do on their own terms.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I always go back to, because sometimes you hear these people, they try and give you advice, and they're like, oh, you just do this, and then you do this, and you go like, yeah, but that's not why I got in this to do that. And I'm not saying we all have to do things we don't like, of course, but at a certain point, if I'm doing everything I don't want to do, I should have just fucking been a banker.
Yeah.
And have a steady income doing a bunch of stuff I don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is kind of mentally exhausting. Because I had a completely different career in Australia. Well, I worked as an electrician for nearly 20 years, 19 years, and had this steady income. But there was something about doing your work, finishing your work, and your day's done, and you have a mad chunk of your day that is free.
Yeah.
And the thing that's been hard for me to digest, coming here and taking this very seriously, doing comedy every single night, is the switch never turns off.
Yeah, that hustle grind mindset, which is like half true and half bullshit, because you need to, going back to what we said earlier, you need to be a real person. You need to have a life just for your own mental health, but also that makes your art better.
Yes. Yeah, but now you've got to add the social media onto it.
know.
You've got to add the podcast.
That's why this being your own boss thing, it's mostly bullshit, because it's just giving us more work to do and it's killing us, but it's also giving us a lot of work to do that we didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
Comics I started 20 years ago and weren't like, oh, I want a radio show and I want to, and I want to, edit. That wasn't part of the job that people signed up to do.
I also think I've just had this sense of like, what value are we bringing to the world?
No, yeah.
Because comedy in its art, you are bringing value. There's no doubt about that. But I wonder, this social media thing, like when you die, like it just doesn't feel like you're doing anything. Like if every single person in the world just wanted to be an influencer, the world would just fucking stop.
Right.
It's
Well,
not
that's the sad thing you see is it maybe Gen Alpha, Gen Z, you see those charts that are like most wanted job. And like the first one is like YouTuber. The third one is like TikTok. Like the first, now of course they're kids, so they're not going to be like plumber. But still, like at least it used to be sports athlete, doctor, lawyer.
Right.
And now it's like, and I have a certain amount of, I don't know if you're the same way, but I have a certain amount of, there's a little bit of guilt I have where I like to think I'm doing something I'm good at and I enjoy, but there was a little bit of me just growing up blue collar. My dad loaded trucks for a living, and you're just kind of like, yeah, I guess I'm a YouTube creator, and in my mind I'm thinking these people are suckers for wanting to be that, but I'm like, I guess I am kind of doing that, but I hate that I'm kind of doing that,
Yeah. Oh, jeez. So you grew up in a bit of a blue collar family.
Yeah.
That's humble beginnings.
Yeah, you need a little bit of that. We were like nice middle class America, but yeah, you could definitely a lot of money in comedy now. You could tell the people that grew up like really really rich, and you're like, oh, man, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of the state of the world with like, especially in the West, with like the affordability of everything?
Yeah, well, I like that's becoming. I'm a big woke lib piece of shit.
Yeah,
But
nice.
and I like that that's becoming an issue because I do feel like it's important. It's important to artists, and I think it's a winning strategy. Like I don't know how anyone can like argue with it. Like I think like since Mamdani has been saying it, I think even like Trump's kind of like, oh, do I say that now? Do I? Because it's like it's inevitable. No matter what your politics are, like you're probably struggling now more than you were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's like the middle class comics we were talking about. Middle class is being like hollowed out, and like if I wanted to go the route of my dad and load trucks for a living, I would have a worse life now than he did.
100%. 100%. Yeah. The Trump just announced yesterday, I think it was, that he's going to try and pass through Congress a bill that these massive corporations like BlackRock can't buy any like family homes anymore. And
I did see that, like a private equity can't buy that, and I'm like, hey.
Dude, that
I'll take one. Hey, if he's right twice a year, I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean that to me is a no-brainer. That should have been done.
You even have like people like to be taking some shots at the Dems too, like the Nancy Pelosi's of the world with the stocks stuff, and like the stuff we allow rich people to get away with is truly insane. And the people that go to bat for some of these people, you want to be like, hey man, we all have our own opinions, side of the political aisles, et cetera. But like, can't we all agree? Like other than maybe like climate change, the biggest problem is that we're letting rich people get away with fucking murder.
100%. Yeah.
And I feel like that's a thing a lot of people across the political spectrum kind of agree with.
Yes. You shouldn't be a politician and be able to invest in the stock market.
Yeah.
With the amount of inside knowledge that you have, it just seems crazy. And I don't think in Australia we have a massive problem with overseas investment, like Chinese coming and buying apartments and stuff. I just don't even think you should be able to buy real estate if you're not a citizen of a country, or at least with the appropriate visa holder, like someone that's a resident. And to ever have had these private equity firms be able to buy. Yeah. Apparently they own 1% of the housing in America, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's still a lot.
Well, there's even crazy thing like we think here, a lot of people think of the stock exchange as like the economy. But I remember reading, and I'm sure I'll get the exact figure wrong, but it's like 90% of stocks are owned by like 10% of Americans. And you're like, what about the other 90%? Like, how many friends do I know that are like, oh, my Apple stock's not doing great? Like, they're trying to get dollar pizza. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's just like we have all these weird things that they're so tied into rich people and not like literally your friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like everyone at the moment is struggling. Even my friends are like, when I was going through as an electrician, like I bought a house when I was like 23. I bought my second house when I was 26. There is no way I could buy either of those houses now. No way. If I wanted to start again, I just couldn't. I just wouldn't be able to afford it. Yeah. And that is telling, isn't it?
Yeah.
The wages went up a little bit over that time, but I hope we were talking about like corrections. If they're with, I hope that gets corrected. Yeah. I don't see it happening.
I don't see. It's tough because I like to be a little optimistic, and maybe that's foolhardy. But I do think that is, there's, when I kind of first moved to the city, there was the big kind of like the 1% Zuccotti Park with the whole big kind of like rally there, kind of against rich people and corporations, and that kind of. I thought that was going to be it. And then that kind of died out. You had the Bernie thing. And, he never got to run for president. That died out. But I do think that that's like, that has only gone up this because I think at a certain point you just can't you look around and you go like, yeah, me and everyone is struggling. You can't like not admit that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, listen, mate, we got to wrap this up.
All right.
Give everyone your socials, guys. You got to watch his special. It's just packed full of laughs. I just enjoyed it so much. It brought me so much joy. I was laughing by myself in my apartment. So, guys, you have to watch your special. Shaun, tell everyone where to find it.
I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on.
You're
Special is Long Story Thin. It's on Mark Norman's YouTube page. I also have my first special called Neil on my YouTube page. And my social, I am Shaun Murphy, Shaun with a U, S-H-A-U-N. Please follow me. Please watch, like it, throw a comment. You could throw a negative one if you want. That's fine. Throw a comment up there. And yeah, thanks for having me on the
Shaun,
pod.
absolute pleasure, mate.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. See you on the next one, guys.